Kevin O'Leary came, he campaigned, and he was conquered. Then he left, and he's now got more than $500,000 lingering in unpaid debt. So why is he now suing Elections Canada to try to pay it back? Let's find out. Joining me now is the businessman, Shark Tank star, and former leadership candidate himself, Kevin O'Leary. Kevin, why are you suing Elections Canada?
Because what I found out, Evan, even though I knew the rules going in, I actually ran a campaign and learned a lot about what doesn't work. These are old rules set up years and years ago that don't fit modern campaigns anymore. And I'm trying to do something for my country. I feel this is a way I can give back by fixing these archaic rules that do so much damage, particularly to small vendors that service campaigns. What I discovered, which was the most shocking to me, is that there are all kinds of small vendors that get involved in political processes for all parties over the last decade plus years that have never been paid back by the campaigns. And we have a law in Canada that actually allows them to never get paid back, which is un-Canadian and, I argue, unconstitutional. I would like to challenge that Constitution. It's a mistake.
Okay, well, let me get to that in a minute, because other people who ran in your leadership race, they've paid back their debt. You knew the rules. You can contribute according to the rules, just so people know, 25 grand personally. Then others can donate $1,575 a year. If you didn't think you could pay off your debt and you spent almost $2 million, why did you run up that debt if you couldn't pay it off with the rules?
You know, just because the rules exist doesn't mean they're right. What's happened here is the cost of campaigns has skyrocketed dramatically. I spent way over $2 million. The point is, think about this. I am no longer in the political process. I am not a politician. I'm a Canadian citizen. I owe other Canadian citizens money, and they can't do anything to get it from me. It's absolutely unfair. But where the unconstitutionality comes into this, think about it, Evan. I approach you, say, Evan, give me $1,575 for my campaign, which ended years ago and is ancient history. That takes you out of the ability to put money towards a campaign that's active today. It takes away your right as a Canadian citizen to participate in an ongoing political process today. That, my friend, is un-Canadian, unconstitutional, it's bankrupt, and somebody has to fix it. I'm willing to invest my own money to take this challenge to the Supreme Court of Canada and bust this law, because it hurts us as a country. It breeds mediocrity. It takes away your ability to choose a new leader in any party.
Okay, but hang on.
Do you really want that, Evan? Do you want your ability to be... You know exactly what I'm talking about, and I'm absolutely right about this.
Well, hold on a second. First of all, you can still contribute $1,575 a year so people could do it. But here's how most other candidates do it, Kevin. And this is why some people think you're just a victim of your own campaign. Most other candidates, and this is why the rules exist, they lose, but they stay involved in the party, and then because they do, others, like the leader, helps them pay off their debt. The difference with you is you came, you showed up, you ran, and then you lost, and you left. And people are saying the rules are to avoid rich guys like you doing just that, some exercise in branding, and then leaving when you don't win. This is why you can't pay off your debt, because you didn't stay to be a team player.
That's completely nonsensical. The fact is, modern campaigns are filled with all kinds of people that aren't generally politicians. There were 14 candidates in the Conservative race. Many of them never held political mandates. You're basically selecting against them, Evan. You're trying to tell me you want to breed mediocrity in politics? You don't want people that are involved in politics to get involved in leadership races? Shame on you. That's ridiculous. And that's why this rule doesn't work.
Wait a second.
I'm telling you, there's a lot of problems here. And if you're right,
by your logic, then, Stephen Harper, let's just pick Conservatives because that's the party you ran in. Was Stephen Harper mediocre? Is Andrew Scheer mediocre? Was the guy you ended up supporting, Maxime Bernier, mediocre? You're saying it breeds mediocrity. Are you suggesting, by your logic, that all these people involved in politics, except you, were mediocre?
Absolutely not. What I'm saying, it reduces choice. I'm supporting Scheer. We desperately need a new prime minister, as evidenced by what's happening to our country. You know, Trudeau had his chance. He's got to go now. I thank him for his work, but boy, that guy should not be running Canada. There's no more capital coming to Canada anymore. I just returned from Dubai and Manila. They're not putting a dime into Canada. They say our country's uninvestable. Those were the words they used. We can't get anything done. Who do you blame for that? There's only one person, Justin Trudeau, and certainly Morneau's been a really bad fiduciary, because he's not kept up with what it takes to be competitive in Canada.
Let me just say one last thing. You would, because I think you've got one idea here that merits a lot of attention, which is you would offer to pay back these vendors who you owe them about $400,000, $500,000. You would pay them back now out of your own money, but then you would agree with Elections Canada over an extended period of time to raise the money through the existing rules. Is that right? Would you do that?
I'm happy to do that, but when I petitioned Elections Canada twice, you know what really motivated me? You never heard this story. The reason I started on this journey is I got a phone call from a vendor owed about $2,200. He was weeping. He was getting divorced and he couldn't pay for his child's daycare. And I owe him $2,200. He begged me to pay him back. I called my lawyers, I called my agent, said, "This is crazy. I've got to give this guy this money." He said, "Don't do that. You'll both break the law." Is that a fair law in Canada? Does that make sense to anybody listening to this? How un-Canadian is that?
Sure,
I
you
want to
have
bring that
known this,
man
though.
to court to talk to a judge and explain what's wrong with this.
Shouldn't you have known
Don't
that
you have a heart,
before?
Evan? What's the matter with you?
Well, let me ask you, don't you take responsibility? You run up $2 million in a campaign debt. Now you can't pay people back and you're trying to turn yourself into the hero. I'm just trying to see the logic of that.
That's absolutely wrong. I ran up $2.5 million of campaign debt, and I asked Elections Canada, let me pay these small vendors back, and let me pay them back. I did it once, and they said, no, go pound sand. I did it again. I said, listen to the story of these small vendors. Is this fair? I have the means to pay them back. They told me to go pound sand. I want to go and pound sand with them in front of a judge. Let's test the constitutionality of this. I want to pay this debt back, Evan, and my own country won't let me. This is so unfair to those small vendors. Why is it right that a poor man that can't afford his child's daycare shouldn't be paid back that somebody can afford to do it? You think that's fair? You're okay with that? I'm not. I'm going to fix this.
All right. Well, we'll be following the court case closely. Kevin O'Leary, great to have you back in the program.
I'm doing it for you, Evan. You know that.
Okay. I love it.